Hey, welcome back, TTM Trades. I just wanted to record a quick video for you all. You may hear a little noise in the background because this is a short notice video, but just wanted to give a quick update on where I stand as far as ticker SPY. Now, I have been calling this play-by-play just to try to help everybody out. We did say there might be a possible 380 to 385 bounce. We actually got it way above our target up to 387. So we took calls on this run up here as we started to see the bottom formation form. And then what we was looking for today was for this to push up into its line of resistance so we can exit out and take our puts. So as it pushed up into this 388 to 390 level, once we started to see this break down right here and topping out, we went ahead and took puts, and you can start to see the PMO flattening out here. And now we're coming back down to the downside. So been kind of calling this one play by play. And just looking at this real quick, all right, like we said for a uptrend, right? Any stock that's in a strong uptrend to hold above that middle BB and that top one standard BB, and any times it pulled back at a bounce off that middle BB, or if there's a much deeper pullback, it'll hit that bottom one standard and then continue upwards. But if we look here over the past couple of days, and this is on a 2-hour chart, 2-hour chart to your left, daily chart to your right. We've been constantly trending down, creating lower lows and lower highs. All right. And if you can see here, we broke below that bottom one standard deviation and immediately tried to rally. And as we started to push back up, right, we want to get above that middle Bollinger Band because that's where we want to consolidate and hold to try to get back in that uptrend. But you can see as soon as we pushed up into that middle Bollinger Band and we pushed up into that intraday high of 388 to 390, what we was looking for, you immediately sold off and closed right back below that middle BB. All right, so one, that's a very, very bearish sign. When the middle Bollinger Band starts acting like resistance and is no longer acting like support, then that tells you the price action is gaining momentum to the downside. Number two, the RSI is creating lower lows and lower highs with the price action, and is not above its averages as far as short term and long term. Now it is hitting this 50 area, which is a key area to hold on the RSI. And we're kind of sitting right here. But again, just looking at how we closed today, I'm pretty sure we're about to dip further down along with the price action going further down also. And that's on the daily chart. So we'll slide the daily off, 2 hour to the right, 30-minute to the left. Now, just looking at this 2-hour chart, okay, the PMO is still turned downwards, right? And it has not crossed, right? There hasn't been enough momentum for this downtrend on a day-to-day basis to kind of base out and slow down this downward motion, right? If this downward motion was to slow down and start consolidating in a specific area, and you've seen some actual buying pressure coming into play, then you would see the Bollinger Band with the line cross below its average, showing that the price action is now consolidating in a specific range. And you would see the PMO cross over to show that some buying momentum has flattened this out and now is possibly crossing over. All right. In order for the 2-hour chart to cross over and have a very strong crossover, the 30-minute chart, the smaller time frames have to be a lot stronger in its momentum. All right. And as you can see here, on each of these little rallies here, they weren't strong enough to bring the 2-hour chart to cross. So this small rally here, you can see the 2-hour chart did not cross over. This rally here, you can see 2-hour chart did not cross over. Then again, we get another quote unquote, rip your face off rally, as they call it in the news. And you can see here the PMO did not cross over. Now, as the higher time frame momentum is constantly moving downward, each time the intraday time frame momentum goes downward, it's a lot stronger of a move to the downside because the higher time frames are already moving downward. All right. So just looking at the 30-minute chart, going into tonight, possibly tomorrow, it's a possibility that this gets rejected and stays in bear territory and pushes down even further, creating another lower low. Because here you have a low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. We could possibly create another lower low here. Now, one thing to kind of keep in mind, just looking at the 2-hour chart, we did get a clean cross across above the RSI. and with the pullback here. Um, so hopefully the RSI will hit and find some momentum on the one of its moving averages, which should coincide with the 2 hour chart hitting that 380 time frame and holding and get a possible bounce. Now, if we do hold above 380 moving into tomorrow or the next day, and we get a bounce off of this 380, then that would be very convincing for us to possibly have a rally back up to that 390 to 392 level. But going into tonight, as far as the futures, or into tomorrow, if we fail this 380, then that opens the 2 hour chart up for more room to slide back down to the downside. All right, we'll put a 30-minute chart to the right, 5-minute chart to the left. So again, we just been playing these small swings you see here on a 30-minute chart, utilizing a 5-minute chart and its signals because we are in a consolidation window. So here's the first 380 to 385 call that we made. Again, we started to see that the PMO trending upwards. All right, and as it trended upwards and it pulled back, it found support on its averages and it continued. All right, and also we got that double bottom pattern on a 5-minute chart. I love trading. I call them W patterns and M patterns, M top patterns and W bottom patterns. But we get this W formation where the price actions in a strong downtrend, it breaks out of that downtrend, gets above that bottom one standard deviation. And typically, we look to see it test the top one standard deviation in the middle Bollinger Band, and we look for another sell-off to finish the W pattern, and then another breakout to the upside where it breaks that last line of resistance right here. All right, so now looking here, we got the buy signal. This is when we alerted the 380 to 385 call. You got that rally up to 387, close to 388. And then as we started to see the PMO fade, losing momentum to the upside and crossing over and falling below its averages, along with this upward breakout starting to consolidate on the Bollinger Bandwidth, we went ahead and took puts. And then we can see that momentum begin to pick up to the downside in the 5-minute chart, starting to head back into bear territory. Now, again, that's not good for the overall picture because, again, for the daily chart to gain momentum to start heading back up to the upside, every time frame below the daily chart has to show a magnitude of strength that will pour over into the daily chart. Kind of like a wave, right? It starts off as a little ripple, keeps building, turns into a wave, keeps building, and now you got this big, wave crashing down on the beach. Same concept here. You want your smaller time frames to start off as a small little ripple, and they should be building into the bigger picture as far as that momentum. But again, you can see here on a 5-minute chart, we're losing momentum, and that 5-minute PMO is going back into the bear territory, into the downside. Well, if you look, the 30-minute chart never got out of bear territory, then it's already losing momentum from the small breakout it had. And if this continues to drop downwards going into the futures tonight and into tomorrow's opening, then this is going to pull the 30-minute chart further down and deeper down back into those lower levels that we seen some last week, into that 380 to 374 range we were seeing pretty much from here to here on these bands. But again, just still trading these small swings on the 5-minute chart. Again, we took puts on this signal here. Last time, 5-minute chart, we started seeing some weakness on the PMO, starting to drift downward. We took puts, and then we got this long breakdown here to the downside again. And then we played calls on this upward swing here, right? So when we're in this swinging up and down consolidation pattern, it's a lot better to play these smaller time frames. Again, PMO started gaining some strength, and then we took that to the upside for calls. But again, even though the PMO is giving us all these clear, quick signals on a 5-minute chart, these smaller time frame signals aren't building into the bigger picture to show that we may have a possible swing to the upside. All right, so going to a higher time frame with less noise, looking at the 2-hour chart, all those swings that we just pointed out on the 5-minute chart and 30-minute chart, playing these small, tight swings here, up and down, is not building momentum into the 2-hour chart. And if you see the 2-hour chart is steady drifting downward, and you can see the volatility is steady picking up and increasing. Now, as the volatility steadily increases, that means that these swings are going to get a lot wilder and they're going to swing a lot faster. So you see this volatility is constantly picking up, and the PMO is constantly trending downwards to show that momentum's to the downside. You could see the speed of it is starting to pick up. So you know the what we're seeing here develop on a daily chart, you can start to see on the 2 hour chart on an intraday time frame that this swing is probably gonna, if we don't hold this 380 going into the futures tonight or possibly tomorrow, this swing to the downside is going to be very fast and volatile. All right, which will swing you back down here to these lows of 372. And again, as I said in my last video or two, we lose that bottom one standard deviation on the daily chart and that bottom two standard deviation, and that opens us up into a downtrend to push down here to this 355 to 360 level that everybody's been watching and waiting for. So again, I'm myself personally, I'm not long right now. Like I said, we took puts earlier based on this 5 minute charts momentum, and that's what we look for. As we started to push back up into this area of resistance, I was monitoring the 5 minute chart to start looking to find a breakdown. So as we started getting into this area and I started seeing a 5 minute chart break down, then I knew that selling was taking place as far as intraday traders and whoever else might be selling their shares. And once I started to see this momentum break down, that's when I knew we was at a key area of resistance. So uh, overall, looking at this again, pull up the weekly right side, daily left side. Again, it's on the weekly, a much bigger time frame with less noise. We are still technically in a week to week uptrend. All right. Again, this top one standard deviation on the weekly chart is very important, which is currently sitting at 380.74. We lose this 380.74. We are coming down here to this 360 to 361 area. Now, I do assume we'll get a nice bounce off of this and then continue our upward route to the upside for 400, because this would stand from top down to here about a 10% correction, which is what the market is obviously looking for altogether. Okay. But right now, I'm not taking anything to the upside. This volume is steady increasing. You can see it's getting higher and higher and higher, which shows you the amount of pressure in this area as far as selling is building up. And sooner or later, it's gonna blow, and that volatility is gonna pick up, and this is gonna swing very hard to the downside. So I would be very careful. Even looking at the daily chart, if you look at the PMO, it is turned downwards to show you that momentum is picking up to the downside. So this isn't moving to 400 anytime soon. Again, just looking at the 2 hour chart and looking at the daily chart. If you look at the 2 hour chart, like we said, that momentum is constantly drifting downwards, and you can see this volatility is beginning to pick up, which we're probably going to get a wild, violent swing to the downside. So again, 380 is key on the daily chart, and then intraday, again, 380 is key. We failed 380, that puts the 2 hour chart back into a downtrend. We failed 380 on the daily, that puts the daily chart in the downtrend setup. And you can see the RSI still not above its averages, and then there's a lot of room from the RSI currently sitting at 51.96 down to 40, which is where we normally look to try to lock in for the ride back up, because this is normally a pretty extreme area, which is why we have it marked off here on the daily chart. All right, so TTM trades, I hope that makes sense. I would not take any place to the upside right now. The momentum, it looks like, to the downside is beginning to pick up. And then again, even just looking at the VIX, it is trending downwards. 30-minute chart, it might flatten out going into tomorrow and then curve back up. But if you look at the 2 hour chart, it is holding above its averages. So very important that the SPY holds 380. We lose 380, then we are going into that downtrend that everybody's been talking about. We get a bounce off 380, then that might change the dynamic of the setup, and then we might start looking at taking a position back long to the upside to 400. But again, TTM trades, that's it. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm out.